The chest of God is taken. Whatever Samuel said was broadcast all through Israel. Israel went to war against the Philistines. Israel set up camp at Ebenezer, the Philistines at Aphek. The Philistines marched out to meet Israel, the fighting spread, and Israel was badly beaten, about 4,000 soldiers left dead on the field. When the troops returned to camp, Israel's elders said, "Why has God given us such a beating today by the Philistines? Let's go to Shiloh and get the chest of God's covenant. It will accompany us and save us from the grip of our enemies." So the army sent orders to Shiloh. They brought the chest of the covenant of God, the God-of-the-Angel-Armies, the Cherubim-Enthroned-God. Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, accompanied the chest of the covenant of God. When the chest of the covenant of God was brought into camp, everyone gave a huge cheer. The shouts were like thunderclaps shaking the very ground. The Philistines heard the shouting and wondered what on earth was going on. What's all this shouting among the Hebrews? Then they learned that the chest of God had entered the Hebrew camp. The Philistines panicked, their gods have come to their camp. Nothing like this has ever happened before. We're done for. Who can save us from the clutches of these supergods? These are the same gods who hit the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues out in the wilderness. On your feet, Philistines. Courage. We're about to become slaves to the Hebrews, just as they have been slaves to us. Show what you're made of. Fight for your lives. And did they ever fight? It turned into a rout. They thrashed Israel so mercilessly that the Israelite soldiers ran for their lives, leaving behind an incredible 30,000 dead. As if that wasn't bad enough, the chest of God was taken and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were killed. Glory is exiled from Israel. Immediately, a Benjaminite raced from the front lines back to Shiloh. Shirt torn and face smeared with dirt, he entered the town. Eli was sitting on his stool beside the road keeping vigil, for he was extremely worried about the chest of God. When the man ran straight into town to tell the bad news, everyone wept. They were appalled. Eli heard the loud wailing and asked, "Why this uproar?" The messenger hurried over and reported. Eli was 98 years old then, and blind. The man said to Eli, "I've just come from the front, barely escaping with my life." "And so, my son," said Eli, "what happened?" The messenger answered, "Israel scattered before the Philistines. The defeat was catastrophic, with enormous losses. Your sons Hophni and Phinehas died, and the chest of God was taken." At the words, "chest of God," Eli fell backward off his stool where he sat next to the gate. Eli was an old man, and very fat. When he fell, he broke his neck and died. He had led Israel 40 years. His daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and ready to deliver. When she heard that the chest of God had been taken and that both her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she dropped to her knees to give birth, going into hard labor. As she was about to die, her midwife said, "Don't be afraid. You've given birth to a son." But she gave no sign that she had heard. The chest of God gone, father-in-law dead, husband dead, she named the boy Ichabod, "Glory's gone," saying, "Glory is exiled from Israel since the chest of God was taken." Threatened with mass death. Once the Philistines had seized the chest of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod, brought it into the shrine of Dagon, and placed it alongside the idol of Dagon. Next morning when the citizens of Ashdod got up, they were shocked to find Dagon toppled from his place, flat on his face before the chest of God. They picked him up and put him back where he belonged. First thing the next morning they found him again, toppled and flat on his face before the chest of God. Dagon's head and arms were broken off, strewn across the entrance. Only his torso was in one piece. That's why even today, the priests of Dagon and visitors to the Dagon shrine in Ashdod avoid stepping on the threshold. God was hard on the citizens of Ashdod. He devastated them by hitting them with tumors. This happened in both the town and the surrounding neighborhoods. He let loose rats among them. Jumping from ships there, rats swarmed all over the city. And everyone was deathly afraid. When the leaders of Ashdod saw what was going on, they decided, the chest of the God of Israel has got to go. We can't handle this, and neither can our God Dagon. They called together all the Philistine leaders and put it to them, how can we get rid of the chest of the God of Israel? The leaders agreed, move it to Gath. So they moved the chest of the God of Israel to Gath. But as soon as they moved it there, God came down hard on that city, too. It was mass hysteria. He hit them with tumors. Tumors broke out on everyone in town, young and old. So they sent the chest of God onto Ekron, but as the chest was being brought into town, the people shouted in protest, "You'll kill us all by bringing in this chest of the God of Israel." They called the Philistine leaders together and demanded, "Get it out of here, this chest of the God of Israel. Send it back where it came from. We're threatened with mass death." For everyone was scared to death when the chest of God showed up. God was already coming down very hard on the place. Those who didn't die were hit with tumors. All over the city cries of pain and lament filled the air. Gold tumors and rats. After the chest of God had been among the Philistine people for 7 months, the Philistine leaders called together their religious professionals, the priests and experts on the supernatural for consultation. How can we get rid of this chest of God? Get it off our hands without making things worse? Tell us. They said, if you're going to send the chest of the God of Israel back, don't just dump it on them. Pay compensation. Then you will be healed. After you're in the clear again, God will let up on you. Why wouldn't he? And what exactly would make for adequate compensation? 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats, they said, to match the number of Philistine leaders. Since all of you, leaders and people, suffered the same plague, make replicas of the tumors and rats that are devastating the country and present them as an offering to the glory of the God of Israel. Then maybe he'll ease up and not be so hard on you and your gods, and on your country. Why be stubborn like the Egyptians and Pharaoh? God didn't quit pounding on them until they let the people go. Only then did he let up. So here's what you do, take a brand new ox cart and 2 cows that have never been in harness. Hitch the cows to the ox cart and send their calves back to the barn. Put the chest of God on the cart. Secure the gold replicas of the tumors and rats that you are offering as compensation in a sack and set them next to the chest. Then send it off. But keep your eyes on it. If it heads straight back home to where it came from, toward Beth Shemesh, it is clear that this catastrophe is a divine judgment, but if not, we'll know that God had nothing to do with it, it was just an accident. So that's what they did, they hitched 2 cows to the cart. Put their calves in the barn, and placed the chest of God and the sack of gold rats and tumors on the cart. The cows headed straight for home, down the road to Beth Shemesh, straying neither right nor left, mooing all the way. The Philistine leaders followed them to the outskirts of Beth Shemesh. The people of Beth Shemesh were harvesting wheat in the valley. They looked up and saw the chest. Elated, they ran to meet it. The cart came into the field of Joshua, a Beth Shem's height, and stopped there beside a huge boulder. The harvesters tore the cart to pieces, then chopped up the wood and sacrificed the cows as a burnt offering to God. The Levites took charge of the chest of God and the sack containing the gold offerings, placing them on the boulder. Offering the sacrifices, everyone in Beth Shemesh worshipped God most heartily that day. When the 5 Philistine leaders saw what they came to see, they returned the same day to Ekron. The 5 gold replicas of the tumors were offered by the Philistines in compensation for the cities of Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The 5 gold rats matched the number of Philistine towns, both large and small, ruled by the 5 leaders. The big boulder on which they placed the chest of God is still there in the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh, a landmark. If you are serious about coming back to God. God struck some of the men of Beth Shemesh who, out of curiosity, irreverently peeked into the chest of God. 70 died. The whole town was in mourning, reeling under the hard blow from God, and questioning, who can stand before God, this holy God? And who can we get to take this chest off our hands? They sent emissaries to Kiriath-Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the chest of God. Come down and get it.